Hi, everybody. This is Ira Winkler, and I'm here obviously to promote CruiseCon. And I'm here with Bindi Dave, who is one, I hope I pronounce your name right. Sorry, I'm
Then,
terrible with that. Um, and I'm here with Bindi, who is one of the panelists for our Deputy CISO panel on CruiseCon West, which is going to be held October 2nd through 6th. That aside, let me talk very quickly about why we're having the Deputy CISO panel. Our most popular session on the initial CruiseCon back in February was the CISO panel, where we had CISOs from Fortune 200 type companies get together and the audience could ask them anything. And this was the first session of the event. Everybody loved it. And then what happened was we didn't record it. And then I was like, okay, we got the panelists to agree to sit down. And what happened was everybody was saying, no, we want to participate in that panel, even though it meant that they were giving up enjoyment time, time with their family on the ship. And, it was scheduled to go on for just 45 minutes. It went on for close to an hour and a half. And so the one comment we got that was on the negative side for that was everybody was saying it was great, but these people were so far above us in their careers that it wasn't as relatable as it could have been because again, we had everybody from Fortune 200 CISOs down to SOC analysts. And we're trying to go ahead and satisfy the need for career progression for everybody in the profession. And to that end, we got together an awesome group of deputy CISOs, of which Bindi is one of them. Bindi has decades of experience in cybersecurity and technology. And so I thought she would be an incredible person to add to the deputy CISO panel for all to learn from. Anyway, sorry, Bindi, I went on for quite a bit. Do you want to provide a background for people that I could never do?
sure, happy to. First of all, CruiseCon looks like an incredible event. I'm so honored to be speaking at it. So thank you for having me, Ira. When we talk about what it is to be a CISO and why the role of, I think, deputy is so important, right? It's a dynamic role, and there's so many different flavors. But when we look at who is building the protections, the defenses, how are we managing threats, how are we mitigating risks, how are we affecting controls, a lot of that is going to come from that deputy role that is heads down internal and not only taking stock of what the organization needs but managing that effectively, working together with the CISO and the executive leadership team. So I'm excited for that conversation. My
I,
background, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, I appreciate that. Really appreciate that. And I guess so when you're looking at the deputy CISO role, and this is a little off topic than what we discussed previously, but as you were talking, it hit me. There's different types of deputy CISOs within organizations. Some organizations have a deputy CISO who is being primed for the CISO role. Some
Mhm.
organizations have them as, I don't want to say a hot spare for the CISO, but just in case there's an emergency, there's succession planning and things like that. Other organizations have deputy CISOs for more operational roles that where they have an operational role and they have the deputy CISO title, but in some cases they're not perceived necessarily as the successor. They're perceived as more, somebody to kind of step in. But do you see that as something common in industry? Because this is going to, like, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because you're obviously one of those people who could easily step into a CISO role in companies of many sizes. But, like, do you see that as being a potential problem for people that are getting more just a fancy title compared to somebody who is a true leader in the industry?
Ira, I think it's extremely important to be careful where you go and know what you're looking for. There's words mean things. I think people need to align on those definitions. So Yeah, I see it. There's these different flavors. There's your operational. You may think that you're going in for a succession plan, and the company may have a different view on it, or they may not even have a CISO. They may completely pull that report and do something else. So I think it's important to keep our eyes open, network, understand what the community says, and have those honest discussions with the organization that you're to be a part of.
So, in getting to that point, because even if you're going to be, I guess, what do you think was the most impactful part of your background that allowed you to excel to get a deputy CISO, you know, soon to be CISO type of position?
Yeah, so security is a team sport. And when you go in any leader, right, when we go into an organization, not only is our threat landscape changing, the emerging technology landscape changing, but the needs of the business are changing. So I think as leaders that are coming into an organization, we need to understand, not only get a lay of the land and baseline it, but as a team, right? Talk to everybody, ensure that the conversations that you're having are about how the relationship with the security team is across the different BUs and departments, and then understand from a baseline maturity perspective where the organization sits and where it wants to sit. From a capabilities perspective, right? These are the security capabilities that we are providing today versus what we need to provide or the industry suggests, versus these are the skill sets that we have on our teams. But there's a whole discovery process that goes through it. And I think at that point, you need to have critical conversations with your executive leadership team and say, what are our threats? And I'm going to use that word threat not as, there's a lot of stuff with threat groups and scattered spider going on, and maybe that is, but I'm talking about existential threat to your business. So, what would have the most amount of reputational damage, right? Whatever that looks like, depending on the organization, and start looking at what controls you have in place, what you can control and what you can't control to avoid those threats, and collaborate on building what that program looks like and reconciling technologies and cost. And that's how you actually end up owning that program in that seat for whatever organization you're in. And I've done that now at two companies at different capacities. And I'm super excited to hopefully, you know, graduate and align with the organization and what is next.
Yeah. So, what I'm hearing you say is you are, so paraphrasing what you said, you're focusing your skills, abilities, and where you focused your efforts inside an organization on the communication and understanding the business problems faced by that and where technology overlaps those business problems. Because in order to look at the technology and everything like that, and I guess if you were going to be, because part of it is like, how do we make a good CISO, which is going to be part of the discussion. But how do you think somebody can actually get those skills, in your opinion? Because in talking to you, you have this innate skill for the communication and understanding the business practices and things like that. Do you have any good advice for people who theoretically might want to become a deputy CISO into a CISO role to get that where it's not as obvious to them? Because, some people have the innate ability, some people can learn that ability. And how do you think people can pick that up?
Uh, so I think, Ira, we've been talking for a while. In that, we have to talk and listen and hear what folks are saying and understand what the business needs. And that listening skill set, I don't have a book to recommend
Mhm.
for how you ensure that you listen to people, but I do recommend taking external podcasts and books on how to campaign
Mhm.
because in security roles, effectively, we are pulling the levers of GRC all day. And when we talk about risk, we're talking about campaigning in that security space to make sure that everyone is aligned, right? I mean, what is a CISO actually like? What are they responsible for? What are they accountable for? How do they impact? And so much of that is driven by how they influence and how they lead. And so those are the types of skill sets that I think as technical folks can gain those and with an undercurrent of being able to pull those GRC levers, GRCP levers
Mhm.
from a risk perspective, I think they can soar. But the days of working in silos and like that, it's not going to work at these levels. It is a team sport, and being able to bring people together and drive influence is incredibly important.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thanks. So actually, I'm keeping an eye on the time because LinkedIn keeps us down to a certain time limit. So we only have a couple minutes, literally a couple minutes. Do you have any advice for somebody? Like, what's your quick advice if somebody approaches you in an elevator and says, I want to rise to the level that you did? What would you tell them?
Deliver, talk to everyone, make sure you know your shit and deliver. Can I curse on this?
Yeah,
That's
I'm
where we're
I'm
at.
surprised I'm not cursing. But so basically, what you're defining is, and I will paraphrase slightly, you're defining you need to ensure your level of technical competence. Sorry, it's
Mhm.
been a long day. Technical competence, along with the ability to understand how to influence people and combine that, which is what distinguishes perhaps a technologist from a CISO or a project manager from a CISO or whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, all I could say is thanks so much. We're really looking forward to having you because, in everything, you've had an awesome career, and I know people can really, again, learn from you. And frankly, like I keep telling people, the speakers we have at CruiseCon, we have them because fundamentally they are awesome people first. The fact they're competent or whatever is nice, but we really want to make sure we have people like you who are just great to be around. And, we're not stuck on a ship. People get that impression. It's a big ship, so we can go wherever we want, but at the same time, it's really a family that gets together there. So, anyway, I just want to thank you and appreciate your time now and appreciate your willingness to be on the panel at the event. So,
I'm looking forward to digging in deeper. Thank you, Ira.
thank you.